So history, as John could tell you, we are history buffs here at Sporties. We love to talk about where we have come from and where we are going. And headsets has a great history. A long time ago, no one wore headsets, which boggles my mind to this day to think that pilots would hop into a greasy old Aztec and fly around the United States and just hope that there was a speaker on top that worked and was loud enough so I can hear ATC yell at me when I miss my approach fix. So we use speakers and hand mics, but that all led to hearing loss. And any of our older pilots here at Sporties can tell you that is a big factor, and they are wishing they had headsets much earlier in time. The first GA headsets came into play in the 80s, and these were just adaptations from telecom headsets. So they didn't provide a whole lot of hearing protection. Later in the 80s, we got into some aviation-specific headsets that started to protect our hearing in ways that we could only imagine. And then along came ANR and just changed the world. The first ANR headsets were nothing to write home about, but they did cancel quite a bit more noise than the standard passive headsets. ANR is one of those things that once you start flying with, you never go back. And you can see how ANR has changed over time here. In the 90s, we had lots more players come into the ANR world, with the late 90s being what we like to call the second generation of ANR, taking quiet to a whole new level. And that really started to protect a lot of our hearing when we hopped in the airplanes. In the 2000s, we had more people come into the play, and the big feature here was Bluetooth. That way I can use my cell phone and also some later on, some tablets and other peripherals in the cockpit. And then in the 2010s, we have what's called third generation ANR, where again, we're taking ANR to a whole new level, make it more quiet, more comfortable, and more clear in the cockpit. The question I pose here on this slide is, what is going to be that fourth generation ANR headset? We keep toying with this idea of what is that next big thing? And there's lots of questions there. Is it a wireless headset? We've seen those a couple times. We've seen digital headsets. We've seen headsets with lots of other gadgets and gizmos added to them. What is that next big thing? So that's going to be something we come back to here later on. As in any market, especially in aviation, we have a lot of terms. And a lot of it is meaningless jargon, but in headsets, there are some things we like to go over. And I have a slide on each one of these different terms to hit on. So we're going to talk about NRR, and NRR stands for noise reduction rating. In general, this is how well a headset reduces the noise. It's normally given in decibels. In the 90s, the David Clark, Sigtronics, Telex era, they were always chasing the decibels. Well, I have 18 decibels noise reduction. Well, I have 20. I have 22.5. They continue to chase that number. It's not really as useful what it sound, because after we got into ANR, a lot of people didn't publish those noise reduction ratings anymore. NRR, noise reduction rating, is kind of defined as your passive noise attenuation plus your active noise attenuation. But what I can tell you today is that the NRR wars really are over. Headsets are at that point where we're not fighting over the next 1 decibel of noise reduction. They're all pretty quiet. ANR is what I alluded to here in the last slide, is active noise reduction. I call it magic, because to this day, I still think it's magic the way it works. If you can picture sound waves, as you can see in that graphic there, you see the peaks and the valleys, the sound waves coming into my earphone. I have a microphone on my earphone or inside of that ear cup that measures the peaks and the valleys. And then my super smart magic headset replicates said sound wave in the opposite wavelength. So the peaks match up with the valleys, and magically the noise is canceled. It is truly magic when you wear these in the cockpit, and once you start flying with ANR, you won't go back. It is really effective at canceling low frequency noise, engines and propellers. It's not as effective as canceling the high noise, like wind noise from outside the cockpit. There is one myth that I got to debunk right away, and I hear this from a lot of people. They tell me that I won't hear the important engine cues when I have an ANR headset on. And I think that's 110% false. I think you hear a lot more engine cues when you have ANR on. When you drastically reduce all the noise in the cockpit, you start hearing the small things better. Think about walking into a library and hearing somebody drop a book in the very far corner. If you're in a crowded room, you would never hear that. But in a library, you do, because everything's so quiet. Same thing with ANR headsets. They cancel so much noise, you start hearing the small things even better, especially ATC. Bluetooth is a term that's thrown around in A&R headsets, and it's very common in A&R headsets. It does allow you to connect your headset to a phone or an iPad. It is a one-to-one connection normally, so one iPad to one headset. The neat thing about this is you can use your phone to pick up clearances on the ground. If you have a non-towered field and you want to get your IFR clearance, you just call them up on your phone using your headset with the engine running. Works really, really well. Passengers like to use Bluetooth for music, or if you have kids, they listen to movies. And more importantly, it's for apps. I can hear ForeFlight yell at me now when there's traffic in the area or I'm going to hit a tower, which is really, really cool. TSO is a term thrown around in a lot of these headsets as well. It stands for Technical Standard Order, and this is the FAA's minimum performance standards. They have a whole list of not only testing standards, but also service standards to go along with TSO'd headsets. For most of our flying, 91, that's the kind I do almost all the time, it's not going to matter. You can really fly with any type of headset. It doesn't have to be TSO'd. Even in Part 121 airline operations, it may or may not require a TSO headset. Specifically, if you have questions on whether or not your airline does, your chief pilot can tell you whether or not you need to fly with a TSO headset. We've had several airline personnel here at Sporty's go off and tell us that, yes, a TSO headset is required to be in the cockpit, but you don't have to actually wear it. So there's a lot of people flying out there with a lot of other things, and there happens to be a Telex 750 in a back bag in a drawer or somewhere in the very back of the plane somewhere to check some boxes. But when in doubt, definitely talk to your chief pilot. He'll tell you all about TSO and what headsets you're allowed to wear at your airline. LEMO and XLR plugs are a type of connector. LEMO is actually a brand name, kind of like Kleenex and tissue, but it is commonly used to refer to this single panel-powered 6-pin plug. XLR is used in Airbus and some Boeings, and the XLR plug looks like a microphone from an old karaoke system, if you can picture that in your head. But the neat thing about these types of plugs is you can get power from the panel, which when you're doing passive headsets wasn't a big deal, but with active headsets that require power, we normally use alkaline batteries. Well, this replaces the battery part to it. So I can now use my aircraft to power my A&R headset. Just a little bit more magic for those magic headsets. Panel battery or helicopter power, I just alluded to this one, but almost all headsets that we sell today have some sort of battery powered option, whether that's AA batteries or 9-volt, and this really makes them completely portable. And this is important. A lot of us are switching from aircraft to aircraft, and having a portable option is very important. The panel plug does mean no batteries. I can put this into a LEMO plug panel, and I can get all my juice from it. It does require you to install the female side of that LEMO plug into your panel, and we're seeing a lot of new aircraft come out with these plugs in them, as well as our avionics shop here putting those into airplanes. Having no batteries is just one less thing to worry about, and if you're doing a panel upgrade in the near future, it's something you should look at. Most avionics shops can do it for not a whole lot of money. Helicopter pilots are special, as we all know. They use single plugs. They're called U174s. And this is a long time ago. They decided this was a plug for them, so they stick to it. Note that there are plenty of helicopters out there with LEMO plugs as well, so don't feel like you're married to that one plug. There are other options for you depending on what you're flying. And if you're flying multiple airplanes, there's plenty of adapters available. So if you need to go to twin plugs over to LEMO, that's not an issue. You will find a lot of LEMO equipped airplanes still have twin plugs next to them. So there's plenty of options for you regardless of what you're going to be flying. Headsets come normally in two types, stereo and mono. You'll find the modern A&R headsets are kind of both. They have a stereo mono switch in them. Stereo allows you to hear stereo audio in your headset. So you have two channels, both a left and a right. It does require a stereo intercom because you got to have something to provide that stereo, those stereo channels to you. Keep in mind that ATC is not stereo. It is broadcast in a mono. So whatever happens in your intercom, if they split that apart, that's how it gets to two different channels. But ATC and even your radio, when you're broadcasting on your VHF radio, it'll be broadcast in mono, and what happens after that is up to the receiver. If in doubt, I always tell people stereo headsets are probably worth a couple extra bucks. mainly because you have a switch on them to take them back to mono. They're kind of the best of both worlds. So if you're on the fence, spend an extra $5-10 and get the stereo headset. Microphones in aviation are a little different than the microphones you'll find outside of aviation. Electret is the main microphone we use nowadays, and it's a condenser mic. It kind of cancels some of the noise. As you can imagine, the cockpit is a noisy environment, and electric mics help cancel some of that that's out there. There are other types of mics, and the one to watch out for is called a low impedance dynamic mic. There are some dynamic microphones that are not low impedance, but specifically the ones to avoid are the low impedance ones. The military uses intercom systems that have low impedance in them. So if Uncle Joe has a David Clark H1076 from 40 years ago and he wants to give it to you for flight training, you can use it, but unfortunately you only need a really expensive adapter to use it. Low impedance microphones don't work well in high impedance environments like we find in general aviation. I always tell people that it's probably not worth the adapter. Go out and buy a new headset that's actually made for high impedance microphones and high impedance systems, and life will be much better than trying to use an adapter every time you go fly. So let's talk about our buyer's guide here, and we're trying to find that right headset for you. And you kind of have to balance everything out because there's a lot of features you want. And of course, there's one con you have to look at, and that is the price. So we're going to talk about the comfort, the quiet, clarity, audio features, durability, and then of course the manufacturer support. There is not a perfect headset for every person out there in the world. One headset will not solve all your issues for every single person. There's always a different mission for everyone, and we will find that right headset for your mission. Comfort for me is number 1, 2, 3, probably 4 and 5 too, as far as important features. And if you're going to fly in an airplane for 3 to 4 hours, you really want something that's going to fit your head right. And everyone has a different size of the head, so that's going to be kind of very personal. But weight matters. When you look at the weight of a headset, we've had headsets in the past weigh over 2 pounds, and that can weigh on your head very, very fast. Modern A&R headsets have really cut the weight down. Most of them are sub 1 pound, and ounces do count. So the lighter, the better. But in addition to weight, also how you distribute that weight is very important, whether that is distributed on really thick ear cups, or maybe we have a massive thick headband on the top of our head. It kind of changes where those hot spots and pressure points could be. Ear size and quality are very important in this. Modern A&R headsets have switched to a leatherette style foam ear seal, which is super comfortable, but maybe not as durable as the old uncomfortable gel ear seals from 20 years ago. So keep that in mind. Headband cushions, the thicker the better, but there is a limit, right? The more padding we put up there is the more weight. So there is definitely a point at which the headband cushion could be too big. And side pressure is something to look at, and look at your headset to see if it is adjustable. Some of the older A&R or even the passive headsets have the capabilities of adjusting side pressure. Now keep in mind, the old way of making a headset quieter is make it tighter on your head. So if you lessen the side pressure, you might also lessen the noise reduction capability of said headset. Quiet is pretty important, but don't get caught up on it. So many of these headsets nowadays are very similar in the amount of noise they reduce. And noise really does depend on how you perceive it. What kind of aircraft you're flying, how loud that is. A twin-in Aztec at takeoff can do over 120 decibels, and almost every headset out there is going to be pretty loud on takeoff on an Aztec. But at the same time, on a 172 on takeoff, still loud, but not near as loud. And a less A&R capable headset might be just fine in a 172 as well. So the question you have to ask yourself, is your headset quiet enough, and does it work in your airplane? Don't get caught up on the noise reduction ratings on so many of these headsets now. Clarity, this is important. And in this presentation right now, I'm using a very fancy microphone on the desk that is providing amazing clarity, and I'm hoping my voice doesn't sound like I think it sounds. So just like in headsets, microphones are essential to clarity. If you want to talk like a professional pilot flying a 747, the $100 headset's probably not going to have the microphone clarity you're looking for. Quality of those microphones, the speakers are essential to making it sound like you're a professional pilot. This has changed drastically in the last 30 years. And that's where the cheap headsets really fall short, is on the clarity aspect. Audio and phone features. This used to not matter to many pilots, but this is almost becoming an essential part of aviation, and not for calling somebody up or using your phone or even music in flight. Some people think Bluetooth only means music, but it doesn't. It's really for the app alerts that you get now through ForeFlight, Garmin Pilot, FlyQ, whatever app you're flying with. It has the ability to yell at you before you do something stupid. So I'm a big fan of using audio features on your headset, and definitely look for headsets that have them. Bluetooth is preferred, as it is one less wire in the cockpit. But if you have to, the wired input headsets will work just fine. Just make sure you have the capability to do that wired input. Many phones nowadays, you need a special adapter to have wired outputs. Durability is certainly important, but it's not as important as it was about 25 years ago. The headsets of modern era are made really, really good. The one thing to note here is that ANR headsets, just as a rule, are not as durable as passive headsets, just because the external microphones and electronics that are inside of it. This only becomes an issue when you're in extreme environments. Think extreme hot, extreme moisture, extreme cold. Alaska, Caribbean, salt water, snow, that can really wreak havoc on your headsets. If you want to keep your headset in tip-top shape, bring it out of those elements, and you'll be amazed how much longer it lasts. Another note here is on David Clark, because they have a reputation for indestructible gear. They make headsets that last 40 years, and sometimes they feel like it, but at the same time, they are bulletproof, and we see a lot of those making it into those extreme condition areas as a result. You'll find a lot of green domes up in Alaska flying around and flying around for decades. Manufacturer support is certainly important, and the brands you see here on the screen are many of the brands we sell here at Sporty's. And there's a reason for that. These guys have been around for a long time. They have great reputations. The warranties are amazing, and they will repair headsets long after any warranty, and usually at no cost as well. So having a name brand that's been around for a long time is important if you plan on flying for a long time. So now we got through all the buyer's guide, all that good stuff. Let's talk about actual headsets. What in the world is out there for me to buy? And there are plenty of options, anything from $100 all the way up to $1,300. Now I'm going to cover these kind of 4 areas. The passive headsets, which are going to be the least expensive. We have some mid-range budget ANR headsets, as well as some extremely super high-end premium ANR headsets that are very expensive, but probably worth every penny. And then last but not least, we have some niches, lightweight and indie-ear headsets that are in the market. There are some innovation here with some new headsets that's coming out, and specifically on the high end. On the low end passive area, it kind of hasn't changed in the last 40 years, and you can tell that. But on the high end, we have multiple ANR microphones, which increase the capability of our ANR headsets. We have digital ANR, which further customizes the signal to reduce noise even further, even more magic for you. Wireless headsets kind of came and went. We had a few, and they're no longer around. So I think that revolution is probably over. We have advanced Bluetooth features, so instead of just having a connection between your iPad and your headset, you can also control your iPad with volume controls, as well as some other pause play things with some of the other apps on there. There's certainly a focus on comfort. The high-end guys, Bose and Lightspeed, have committed to making headsets more comfortable, and you can tell with their latest additions on how they've advanced on comfort. And then there's more things being added to headsets. Call out to Lightspeed with their carbon monoxide detector, as well as the hearing acuity function on the Delta Zulu. We're taking headsets kind of to a new level with what they can do as far as safety in the cockpit. We'll start with the passive headsets, because this is kind of where most people come into. This is a great entry-level option. We have a lot of student pilots here at Sporty's that start with a passive headset. They're pros that are definitely more affordable than their ANR cousins. They're durable, and there's usually no batteries. I say usually because some of these passive headsets do have Bluetooth capability, like the Faro Stealth Passive there on the right-hand side. If you have Bluetooth, you're going to need power, and that's the one drawback. But that also is a positive, as now I have that communication capability in the cockpit to your iPad or iPhone. The cons of passive headsets, they're generally heavier than most of the other headsets on the market. They do more squeezing, because that's how we cancel noise in the passive world. We just squeeze your head more. And then some do or do not have the capability for cell phone. A couple gems here. The least expensive headset, the ASA, you're going to find that for around 150 bucks, but it's not the worst headset on this list. It's actually a pretty nice headset for that price point. It's a very good value. ASA offers a lifetime warranty on it, and we have a lot of student pilots that start with one of those headsets. The David Clark headset on this list, the H10-13-4, is amazing. It's probably the best-selling student headset over the last 10 years, just or probably even 20 or 30 years, because it's been out for that long. That might be a negative for some people, but it's a positive in this case, because it is durable and it will last forever. It's bulletproof, and a lot of students here, as well as instructors, are still using the H10-13-4 as their primary. Mid-range ANR headsets are kind of the center of the bullseye for a lot of people. And I love these things, but they don't get a lot of love anymore. They're great bang for the buck. They provide good ANR, not great ANR, and there's some improved comfort over the passive cousins. So they're still relatively comfortable. They're going to be heavier than a Bose or a Zulu, and the microphone clarity is not going to be near as nice. But all in all, they're a really good value. The Stealth headset you see here, the Stealth 2 is the one under $500. And if you're looking for a inexpensive way to get ANR, that is probably the way to go. The best value here, I think, is the Lightspeed Sierra at 700 bucks. It's a phenomenal headset. And it's really good for guys like me with big heads. This is kind of like the big head headset. It's very comfortable for those guys that have massive melons like I got. The super high-end headsets is where most people gravitate to, and this is where we see the most sales, as well as the most people on our ramp that pull up will have one of these on. And these are really the players here. They have the best overall noise reduction, the best overall comfort, and then all the high-end audio features. The cons are, though, you got to pay for it. And I kind of expanded on each one of these brands because we get so many questions and comments on them. We'll start with the David Clark 1X, and this is a really great headset from David Clark, the guys that make bulletproof headsets that'll last forever. It is an extremely comfortable headset. The microphone is amazing. It's probably the clearest mic out of all four. I'm really a big fan of the microphone here, and it folds up into a really small footprint. So the ear cups fold in on each other, and then you can wrap the cable around it. And if stowing is a problem for you, if you're flying a lot and want the smallest footprint headset, this is the one. Now, I will say, after flying with this one for a while, you'll notice that it's not as quiet as the other premium ANR headsets, and it's noticeable. It's not going to be extremely loud in the cockpit, but I would say it's a good 25 to 30% not as quiet as a Bose or Lightspeed headset. The digital volume controls take a while to get used to because they're up and down. There's not like a slider switch or a little spin wheel, so that's a little hard to get used to. And David Clark's had some massive inventory issues, so finding one of these can be a problem right now. Hopefully those get remedied and we can see more of these on the market. The Zulu 3 headset from Lightspeed has been around for a while now, but it's I would call this one the flagship Zulu Lightspeed headset, because it's been just a rock star in terms of performance and sales. It's an amazing piece here. It has a stainless steel headband and a Kevlar cord, and it is super quiet. A couple of the cons here for you, though, it is going to be a little bit more squeeze than most other headsets, so you have more side pressure. The microphone is not reversible, so you kind of have it only on one side, and you can't flip it over. It's always going to be on that one side. And this headset is not TSO'd, whereas the David Clark and the Bose are both going to have that TSO'd feature on it. So if you need that check mark, you kind of have to go to one of those. But in terms of price point, this headset is by far a great value. You're going to find this one for under $1,000. It'll be close to that $900 range, as compared to some headsets that are creeping up towards the $1,300 price point. This one's really great. And if you want to step up from that great budget buy of a Lightspeed Sierra to a Zulu 3, you will certainly not be disappointed. Lightspeed has another headset they brought out here recently in the last year or so. It's called the Delta Zulu. And this is kind of the step up. This is their premium ANR headset. It has all the features that the Zulu 3 has on it, but then they added some stuff. So this is really cool. They have a carbon monoxide detector built into this, so you don't have to think about it. It's just there, it's on all the time, and it works. Has preset alert levels inside of it, so at certain levels you're going to get that alert that carbon monoxide's in your cockpit. In addition to that detector, they also have a companion app called the Lightspeed app that can track CO in your cockpit. So after your flight, you can see the levels at different times, which is really cool. You'll notice during startup, you'll probably have a little more CO, but then during cruise and with your window open, you probably won't have any. So there's different phases of flight that you'll see different carbon monoxide levels entering your cockpit. One of my favorite things about this headset is simple though. It's the rechargeable battery. All these headsets use AA batteries, and if you're going to plug it in with your PJ plugs, you're going to go burn through batteries about every 30 to 40 hours of flight time. So having a rechargeable battery is a really cool feature, and Lightspeed has it. There is a custom plug to charge it up, which is not very user-friendly, but they do include that cable inside there to charge said battery. In addition to the rechargeable battery, they have an alkaline battery pack that's included, so you always have a backup just in case that battery does run out and you don't have that cable with you. Lightspeed made a feature inside here called hearing acuity, and the idea here is you take a hearing test just like you would in a lab when you get hearing aids and identify those levels of sound that are hard to hear. The Delta Zulu then reacts to that and can boost those different levels for you in the cockpit. This is a really neat feature, and I find it more effective maybe for music and audio input, not so much on the mono sound coming in from ATC, but this is one of those where reports differ. A lot of older pilots that we have here at Sporty's absolutely love this feature, where some others don't really notice a big difference on it. The cables are on one side of this battery box, which might seem like a very small feature, but again, it's pure genius. Thank you, Lightspeed, for finally doing this. But you can now tuck this box inside that side pocket in a Cessna, and you don't have this weird cable situation where the cable goes in one side, out the other, and all this other stuff in between. So that's a great design feature. I wish every headset had that one. Cons here, the battery life on the Delta Zoo is a little lower than the others. You're only going to get around 20 to 30 hours on that rechargeable battery. That custom plug I mentioned there for recharging the battery is less than ideal. And this one is a little bit heavier than their other models. So it's not extremely heavier, but noticeable on the, at least on paper, that there's a little bit more weight to this one. And the last headset on this comparison here is the Bose A30. This came out just this year, and it's Bose's latest and greatest premium ANR headset. They took some of the features of their ProFlight headset and put it into their GA headset. So you have the tap to talk through function, which means I can tap an ear cup twice and it kind of opens up that ear cup, or rather lowers the ANR on that ear cup. So now I can hear somebody else that's in the cockpit that's outside of the intercom system. Think of a flight attendant walking to the cockpit of a 737. I can tap the side of my ear cup and I can talk to said flight attendant and then close that ear cup back up when they leave. There is a side switchable microphone, which is really easy with these two little wings that fall right out, and you can go from left to right. So if you're switching from left seat to right seat, it's very fast and no tools required. It is super lightweight and it's TSO'd. The cons here, though, it is the most expensive headset we sell. So price is definitely the biggest con. I put adjustable ANR, believe it or not, as a con, which most people think that's a pro. Well, for general aviation, we just need it on high and high all the time. I find myself occasionally will accidentally flip that switch down, and now it's no longer on high and it's much louder in the cockpit until I figure out what I've done and flip it back up. I'd much rather not have that adjustability for GA, but it is there, and it's certainly more associated to guys that are in commercial cockpits or turboprops, so you can adjust your ANR levels if you want to. And the other thing we should mention here is it's not a huge upgrade from the A20 in terms of noise reduction. We did a lot of testing with this with pilots, and as far as the noise reduction capability between those two headsets, they're almost identical. Some people claim it was better in certain airplanes, and other people actually claimed it was worse. So we're kind of hoping to see a bigger increase in noise reduction capability, but that wasn't really there. All in all, it's still a great headset, and it's definitely the latest and greatest from Bose. We got to mention the lightweight headsets. These are mostly for jet pilots and turboprops. If you're flying for 6-hour legs, weight is everything. So having a very light headset is the center of your bullseye. And these are all very light. They have small footprints, so they're easier to take with you. The cons here, though, they have less ANR capability, so they won't reduce as much noise. And some of these on-ear designs are not as comfortable as an around-the-ear design. So you might have some hot spots depending on your head shape and size. In-the-ear headsets are a completely different approach, but I think it's certainly worth noting here. I'm actually a huge fan of in-the-ear. I've flown with them many times. That's me in the bottom right-hand corner trying to chase somebody in a tail dragger there, doing some formation flying. And I have an in-the-ear headset on, and it's almost like it's not there because they're so light. Think of 2 earplugs in your ears with little speakers inside of them, and then you have this really lightweight microphone that you can adjust and put where you need it. So I'm a fan of these things. The only con here, though, is they can be uncomfortable for some pilots. While I love them, I'm a military guy, and I can wear earplugs all day long. There's some people who cannot. So if you're not used to earplugs, this might not be the center of the bullseye for you. I will say that these earplugs are different. The Comply earplugs are really, really soft, supple, and comfortable. So give these a shot. If previously you didn't like earplugs, you might be surprised on this one. You do need to replace those earplugs quite often, especially if you have lots of earwax. You got to keep those clean as well as fresh, probably every 2 to 3 months. And they're not really inexpensive either. These can run up there in price, anywhere from $550 on up to almost $900, depending on which model you want. Accessories for headsets exist, and we sell lots of different accessories here at Sporty's. The thing to mention is that it definitely does matter. Your ear seals will wear out, and the more you fly, the more they'll wear out. Replacing your ear seals, your head pad, and your mic muff on a headset can almost make it feel like new, and we sell refresher kits here at Sporty's to do just that. Especially with all the COVID issues here in the past, a lot of people are switching out mic muffs, so grabbing one of those multi-packs of mic muffs might be really good for you here as you go about your flight training. You should protect your investment with a flight bag. If you're putting a $1,300 headset in a Ziploc bag, you're doing it wrong. Go ahead and spend a little bit more money on a flight bag. You will not regret it. You can upgrade old headsets with Bluetooth input using the Faro audio link. You'll see that in the top right-hand corner. That's just a little adapter that allows you now to use your iPad or phone and have Bluetooth capability in the cockpit. And finally, backup radios are important, and we're all about having those backup radios available in the cockpit without adapters. And here at Sporty's, we've invented 2 radios specifically just for that. The PJ2 Plus COM radio, you can take a standard PJ plug headset and plug it right into the top. If you're lucky enough to fly aircraft with the LEMO plugs already installed, we have a solution for you as well. That's called the L6 COM. That's the LEMO plug version. Both of these radios, you don't need an adapter to plug those headset into. In the event of an emergency, you just unplug your headset from the panel, plug it into the radio, and start communicating, and life is good again. On to the good part, which usually gets me in trouble and a lot of complaints here, but this is the opinions. Like I said, I is a pilot, and I have some opinions. A lot of people call us up and ask us what we think, and so this is based on that those conversations we have with pilots that call us up. So I'm totally biased. I've been doing this for over 20 years, so I definitely have some preconceived notions here. But the $99 special you see on passive headsets, you're going to find these on some big box online retailers. I highly recommend you stay away from those. You get what you pay for. We have many student pilots here at Sporty's that have one of those for a few weeks before it breaks or something else, and they come and spend even more money here to get a headset that's worth it. ANR is generally expensive when it's all said and done, but it's also worth it. Once you start flying with ANR, you never go back. It's that simple. It's kind of like flying with GPS on an iPad. You got to have it. It's one of these must-have things in aviation. So that leads me to that next saying, buy the most headset you can afford. Generally, you're going to find headsets prices as they get more expensive, they also get better quality, better ANR, and better noise reduction. So when in doubt, buy the most headset you can afford. And there is nothing wrong starting with that passive headset. You can always make that a passenger headset as you move up in license and get an A&R headset for yourself. So don't feel bad if you're going to start out with a $150 headset or $300 passive headset. You can always upgrade to something else and give that to your significant other as they ride along with you on the next flight. The number one comparison we get is between Bose and Lightspeed. So let's just address that right here. And we can call that the Coke or Pepsi question, which one you like, 50-50. You can call it the Ferrari Lamborghini question. They're both really amazing headsets, and it really comes down to personal preference, what fits your head best and which one you like. You're not going to be upset regardless which one of these you buy, especially if you're stepping up from a passive headset. You're going to notice and realize the magic that A&R provides, and both of these are top notch. My personal opinions, I think Bose is more comfortable on my fat melon head, and overall, it is our best seller here at Sporty's. Lightspeed, I think, might be a hair more quiet, and also the extra features of the Delta Zulu are really attractive with a CO detector and a rechargeable battery, as well as that hearing acuity. So both are amazing. I encourage you to check them both out. Best value. What should I buy? If I'm on a budget, a very strict budget, I like to direct people towards that Faro passive headset. They have pretty good comfort. The audio inputs there for only $200. You have a great headset. If you want to upgrade to Bluetooth, it's only $250. So in the realm of passive headsets, I think that's a great deal, and I definitely gravitate towards those two Faro headsets. And my best bang for buck in A&R has been Lightspeed Sierra, and it's been like that for over 5 years now. It's just a rock solid A&R headset, has all the Bluetooth features you love, and it's more than quiet enough and more than comfortable enough for most people out there. And you really can't beat that price point. So that brings me back to this question. We didn't always wear headsets, but what will be known as that fourth generation A&R? We've had first gen, second gen, and third gen. What is going to be known as that fourth generation A&R? We've gone through all these different features, and I can't tell you what that fourth generation A&R headset's going to be, but I can tell you that you're going to decide that. Customers decide what the next generation is with their wallets. So it'll be interesting to see how this progresses over time. If digital A&R is going to be that fourth gen, or is there something else out there? Who knows what might come next? Why should you buy your headset from Sporty's? Of course, we think we're awesome, but we do offer a amazing test flight guarantee. We know it's kind of hard to get out flying. Sometimes you're down with weather or maintenance or other things, but we want you to take your headset flying, and if it's not right for you, make sure you get it back to us. We can exchange it for another one, refund, whatever you need to do. There's no insane paperwork or hassle to be had. We're Sporties, we're experts, we're pilots. We know how this works, so we appreciate your business. But that's our presentation for today. That's Aviation Headsets, what's new and how to choose the right one. I fear opening this up for questions because I'm sure John's going to ask me something crazy here, but we're going to do it.
Doug, phenomenal job. That was a ton of information in just over half an hour. So he makes it look easy, but you can tell with Doug's presentation, he knows this stuff cold. So thanks for the facts and also the opinions. Couple good questions came in here. One headset you didn't address because it's sort of been superseded, but the Bose A20, the really flagship of Bose for about a decade, will that continue to be supported? Is that something I should be looking at? Tell me about the A20.
Well, we're all about history here at Sporty's, right? So we can look back at the Bose history in terms of support and service for their other headsets. And I can say without a doubt that the Bose legacy of supporting their headsets should not be questioned. They serviced their old 10 or X headset, I think, for 10 years after it was discontinued and stopped being manufactured. So if that is a worry of yours, I would not worry about that whatsoever. As far as getting one, there are still some available out there. We even sell some here at Sporty still. And I'm not sure how long they'll be available, but hopefully we can continue to sell those to our customers. The A20 is an amazing headset. It's been around for a long time, and we've sold a lot of them. So I would have no bones about not recommending one of those. I will say that A30 is kind of the latest and greatest, and that's definitely where Bose is heading. So kind of like behind last year's iPhone model, this year's iPhone model might be a hair better and at least have a longer longevity as far as lifespan goes when it's all said and done.
Great. Another question here. Listeners wondering about the Lightspeed Delta Zulu, and has read a few reviews talking about the microphone boom maybe being too short, which I don't think is the issue that he's talking about there. But Doug, tell us about that and what kind of fix is out there if people have read some of that and are concerned at all.
Lightspeed has, I've heard both boom too long and boom too short on many different headsets. So that usually means they got it the right size. Kind of like our jackets. Sometimes we get jackets returned because they're too large. Sometimes they're too small. So if you have the equal amount of both returns, you're doing it right. Lightspeed has addressed that a little bit in the fit and finish of some of their headsets. Specifically, they make a special head pad that helps you out when it comes to getting the right fit of some of their headsets on your head. Smaller heads, if you are able to put the headset higher up on your head, it has a much better fit. So they make a thicker head pad for those smaller heads. And that also helps a little bit with the orientation, or at least the location of said mic boom. So keep that in mind, that there is at least an option out there to try to help that situation out to make it right. One thing on the microphone, real quick, is I get this often from people who say it's not breaking the squelch right, or something else where it's just not perfect. Lightspeed specifically has a gain control on their microphone. There's a set screw underneath that mic muff that you can get into and adjust, and that works really well. As you're sitting in the cockpit, adjust that. You'll notice right away how that can help you out and get you noticed. The other thing that might be a small thing, but there is a front and back side to these microphones. I've often hopped into an airplane and it had the microphone perpendicular or exactly the wrong way that you're supposed to put it. So having it the flat side facing you is going to be essential to picking up your voice and picking up the right way. So keep that in mind. And when in doubt, shout a little louder. It'll help.
Question here from a listener who's interested in getting a headset as a flight instructor. So really working hard in and out of airplanes all days. Do you have a top pick for that? Is there anything in particular a flight instructor should be thinking about in that application?
A durable headset is certainly important to any pilot in our industry. So that's where the specials on the big box retailers might not be the perfect match for you. But any of the ones we've been talking about today, anything from Bose and Lightspeed is going to certainly be top notch and very durable for you. Even David Clark's, Telex, Faro makes great headsets. If nothing else, make sure you have the right bag. that old Ziploc bag is not the right thing to keep your headset protected. Put it in a nice flight gear bag, a flight outfitter bag, one of these bags with a lot of padding in it, and that's going to really help protect your investment as you're moving from plane to plane to plane.
All right, one more question, Doug, and then we'll wrap up here. And an open-ended one for you as an observer of the headset market. Why do you think we don't have wireless headsets? There's been a few that have been put on the market over the years, didn't seem like they got great traction. Why do you think wireless headsets didn't take off?
Well, specifically in general aviation, we're sitting in a cockpit, and the length of cord between my headset and where I plug it in is roughly about 3.5, 4 feet. I would like to think I could get up and walk around that cockpit, but I can't. It's a 172, it's a 182, Bonanzas, you name it. The core market for general aviation, you don't get up and move around. So when it's all said and done, we're trying to replace a cable that's only 3 to 3.5 feet long. To replace said cable, we have to now put a battery that's located not only on my head, but also on a receiver piece that has to be plugged in the panel. So I've replaced a 3-foot cable with 2 batteries that need recharged. Sometimes the cure is worse than the disease, and that's what it was in this situation when it came to wireless headsets in general aviation. I do think there will come a point in time where wireless headsets do make sense, especially for people that are walking around, maybe it's an airliner or larger cockpits. But as far as the 172, Cirrus, Bonanza, us guys in GA, I don't see replacing a 3.5-foot cable with 2 batteries as a good thing. So I think that's why wireless didn't really take off for us.
Great. Thanks, Doug, for your insight and your experience and those opinions as well. Lots of great information. And if there's a question you think of later or that you didn't get answered, the address is there on the screen, headsets@sporties.com. Feel free to drop us a line for more of that honest advice from an active pilot. With that, we thank you for your attention and thanks for joining us on another Sporties webinar. Again, check out our YouTube channel for a video recording of this and visit sporties.com/webinars to sign up for all of our future webinars. We are doing pretty much one a month year round. So check out that page for the latest schedule and sporties.com for your headset needs and all your pilot supplies. Thanks for joining us and fly safe.